Hey everyone, how we doing? My name is Tim Pongares and this is Focus on Detailing. This upload will be the first installment of working on the Esprit, a video dedicated specifically to wheel cleaning, washing and mechanical paint decontamination, prepping it for paint correction. If you've watched the previous video, you may already know that the Lotus has definitely seen better days. Some serious swirls that a metal brush would be proud of installing, and an interior that was in some serious need of TLC. Before I attack any of that, it needs to be all cleaned up. First thing that needed to be done, as always, would be the wheels. They're actually in fantastic condition compared to the rest of the car, looking refurbished, but I'll still be giving them and the tyres a good clean. Using NV Purge, I gave them a generous spray. This would be left to rest and dislodge less visible contamination, while I spray the tyres with Autoraz APC, and then gave them a good scrub with a firm bristle tyre brush. Moving back to the rim, I used my wheel woolies to agitate the product in conjunction with soapy water, to safely remove what would be predominantly a build-up of brake dust and iron fallout. Once content that I had cleaned every part of the wheel, I pressure washed it down from top to bottom. Now just a quick backstory for those interested. The owner, who I've detailed a couple of his cars now, is a really nice bloke and one of the few people that I go mobile for, due to what I assume is he prefers not to have his quite rare cars on the road so much, which is perfectly fine. But this Esprit is an exception. I've been lucky enough to drive it back to my garage to work on. Now he said, have it as long as you need. This is great, but also a little daunting, as this car definitely needs more time spent on it than the standard. Now, since this classic has some weaker seals due to age and a roof that lets in plenty of air even when closed, I decided to go down the route of using Optimum No Rinse and Shine, a waterless wash and a perfect match for this car as it isn't overly dirty. I started by using compressed air to blow any immediate light dust off of the car, as any reduction of installing defects is desirable, even if it's already as bad as this. I made up a bucket of the appropriate water to product ratio along with a spray bottle. I then began working over the panels and the sections. The spray was great to emulsify the surface level mess, before then gently being picked up with the O&R saturated mitt, carefully wiping in straight motions. This was then dried with a soft microfiber towel, leaving behind a clean surface. This is also a great option on those hot days, or if you'd be wanting to avoid excess water use, as specific areas can be targeted. In this case, as explained before, it's easier for me to control how I cleaned it, avoiding water getting in where it shouldn't be. It's a relatively safe option too, as long as the car isn't loaded with built up dirt. In that case, you can't beat the foam cannon and 2-bucket wash, but for today, this is working perfectly. It wasn't long before this task was completed and the entire car was cleaned and dried. I could now move on to the next step. I could also see just how bad those swirls were. I now jump to the mechanical decontamination process using Bowden's own fine clay bar. I kneaded it at first to get it ready, folding it over itself and into itself so it had a better chance of picking up contaminants, since it would be more malleable. Using the spray bottle again, I gave the selected area a good rinse and began gently rubbing the clay bar over the surface. My intentions were to collect what the wash mitt could not, usually a harder set in mess like iron fallout, overspray, bug splats, embedded dirt and sap. Depending on how long that mess has been resting on the car for will be a determining factor on how successful this process is. You don't want to grind the clay bar onto the paint to remove those spots, as it may create more issues. It's expected to, at times, create micro-marring, as this process is considered an abrasive method. But it's one of those steps, much like using a heavy cutting compound to remove heavy defects, it needs to be followed by a secondary correcting process, which is why it's commonly, if not always, recommended to at least polish once a car has been clayed. If you don't, you may be left with light lines and what looks like scuff marks in the paint. They're only very light and usually installed when there's not enough of a lubrication to prevent excess friction. You might be thinking, why not use a chemical decontamination product such as NV Purify? And the answer to that would be the same reason as to why I didn't use a pressure washer over the entire car, mainly to prevent water getting in where it shouldn't be. Besides this, the clay bar is doing a fantastic job of collecting the contaminants, as you can see here. This was a little more involved task, but just remember it's an important one, as every cleaning or correcting process, when undertaken carefully and fastidiously, will hopefully make the following job more straightforward. So that will be it for this Lotus detailing update. The washing and decontamination process has been completed, and it's all set for the much needed correction and protection work, so keep an eye out for that one as it's already in the works. I hope you all enjoyed this one. It was pretty quick but very important. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated, and I'll catch you all later.